Good morning, everybody, and namaste to my teacher, Professor P.N. Jha. In this plenary session, we have two talks to listen to. The first one is Professor G.P. Das, Professor of Philosophy, Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. Now he is retired, and his topic is Jagannath Consciousness and Jagannath Dharma in the context of globalization. Now I would request Professor Das to begin his talk, and please spare 5 minutes for discussion because there is no special time frame for discussion. Please just spare 5 minutes for discussion. So 55 minutes for your talk. Thank you.
हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय। नारायण समारंभा शंकराचार्य मध्यमा अस्मदाचार्य पर्यंतम वंदे गुरु परंपरा। Dear President Professor Misra, dear co-speaker Professor Swami, erudite scholars and devotees, I bow my head in reverence to Swami Chinmayananda Ji Maharaj, the CIFSS, its director Dr. Dilip Rana, for desiring me to be here to participate in this international conference. The topic has already been announced by the chair. In this presentation, I shall not participate in any historical controversies, nor shall retell so many stories depicting the glory of Jagannath, except by way of general observation. Being a student of philosophy, I shall deal with the topic from the rational perspective and see how much knowledge about him can survive our critical probe. We know that philosophy is a critique of other modes of thought. We cannot just say he is knowable or he is reachable by faith, not by critical probe. Nor can we say that science has exploded the idea of God and soul, and so there is no necessity of any philosophizing. We cannot apply these stoppers to our deliberation concerning the topic and close the avenue for critical thinking. Neither faith nor scientific reasoning is ultimate. This deliberation would be in 3 sections. In the first, I shall speak about the conception of Jagat. In the second, about the conception of Jagatnatha. And in the third, about Jagannath Dharma and values that it holds on, that it preaches to the Jagat. The whole exercise would be an interdisciplinary approach, as the whole proceedings of this conference are intended to be. First section, Jagat. Jagat is the totality of what there is, the totality of all things and beings that could possibly come within the purview of human knowledge. Human, because the entire deliberation is of human beings, by human beings, and for human beings, regarded as not only a conscious but also a self-conscious species. All the choirs of heaven and furniture of the earth, all the impressions and ideas in the mind directly concerning them constitute Jagat. This is the world of matter and mind studied empirically by the sciences in the Western sense of the term science. In Western philosophy, there are 2 broad views regarding matter and mind. According to some, matter and mind are abiding substances which are grounds of respective attributes. According to some others, there are no substances save attributes. Substances or attributes, the scientist tries to investigate into the structure and function of things and beings that there are by common acceptance. He does not feel the need of going beyond the empirical level to find out the ultimate source of substances or attributes. The boson particle that they have discovered after so much of costly and some would say unnecessary research and called it the God particle is in the same empirical level. Stephen Hawking proclaims that it is gravity, not God, that has triggered off creation out of nothing. A line or two from his writings. Because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing. Why the universe exists, why we exist, Hawking writes. It is not necessary, he says, to invoke God to light the blue torch paper and set the universe going, unquote. The God particle is not, in principle, the ultimate. It is empirically the ultimate. It is as though, by courtesy, that they call the particle now discovered as the God particle. It appears from what they exuberantly say that they want to bring metaphysics down to physics, whereas we want to raise physics to the level of metaphysics. This is not raising it to the level of inscrutable mysticism, but to make the scientists aware of the limits of scientific investigation and thereby to impart it direction and imbue the investigation with human values. The idea of the ultimate is Onoronyan Mahato Mahyan, that is smaller than the smallest and larger than the largest. There are two views in the Veda regarding the origin of the world. First one, there was existence at the beginning. Sadaiva Somya Idam Agre Asit. Chandogya 6.2.1. And number two, there was void at the beginning. Idam Agre Asatavai Asit. Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7. Sat signifies plenum, fullness or purna, and asat signifies vacuum, void or shunya. The idea of sat or plenum is said to be the idea of Dravids, and it is regarded as the idea of Purusha. The idea of asat or vacuum is the idea of Nisadas or Adivasis. The Purusha Bhava is Jnana Bhava, the Purusha Bhava is Jina Bhava or Jivana Bhava, idea of life force, which becomes constitutive of Jaina Dharma. The Purna Bhava and the Shunya Bhava are ramifications of Atma Bhava, which is the central conception of the Upanishads. The idea of void got into the idea of Jagannatha in Udyana during the 7th-8th century AD. Jnanasiddhi of Indrabhuti, the king of Udyana, now Sambalpur in Odisha, has the following as its opening verse. Pranipatya Jagannatham Sarvajina Vararchitam Sarva Budhamayam Siddhi Vyapinam Gaganopamam. Salutations to Jagannatha, who is absolute knowledge, who is adored by jinas, who is limitless as the sky in attainments. The Jaina Atma Bhava and the Nisada Shunya Bhava go to constitute the great culture of great men. Jagannatha with a black face represents the Nisada Shunya Bhava, and that of Balabhadra with a white face represents the Jaina Atmavada. The idol seated in between is Ekan Shah. This represents Kama, which is the root of creation in association with the one, be it the plenum or the vacuum. Sah Akamayata, Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.3, and Sah Aikyata, Aitareya Upanishad 1.1.1. Ekan Shah is here Subhadra. It is sometimes said that there is conjoining here of the Vedantic Atmavada and the Buddhist Sunyavada, but this is not the proper view according to the above discussion. Pandita Nilakantha Das of Odisha makes it clear, and I agree with his interpretation, that the void, unmanifested aspect of creation, Sunya Rupa, is black, and the manifested aspect of creation, Prakasa Rupa, is white. We can compare this distinction with the distinction between Karana Brahma and Karya Brahma of Advaita Vedanta, or Asambhuti and Sambhuti of Ishopanishad, or Natura Naturans and Natura Naturata of Spinoza, the Western philosopher. He says that Subhadra, who is in between the two and is of yellow color, is the mother. I may venture here to say that she represents Maya, Ma. Kama, wish, and Maya are two sides of the same coin, as Kama takes place when Maya operates and Maya takes root in Kama. It may be stated in passing that yellow color represents hope, happiness, cheerfulness, and that is the motive of Kama. The present geographical region of Odisha consists of three regions. Number one, the northern region is Utkala. In the past, it extended from the north of Jajpur up to Goa, including Bengal. Number two, Kalinga is the region from south of Jajpur up to Nagavali. And number three, the third one is Udyana, extending about 8th century AD from the present Bodha up to Bilaspur. This region bore the name of South Kosala prior to this. Choraganga Deva brought the neem wood idol from Bilaspur and established the same in Puri, known as Purushottama Pitha or Jinasana Pitha. By this, he brought about a confluence of ideas of Arya and Anarya and became instrumental in propagating the grand religion of Jagannatha. It is possible that Ramanuja or some of his followers had come with Choraganga Deva to execute the process. Now there are many stories concerning Indradumna etc., and they are said to be Bhaktika Mithya by Pandit Das. Second section. This brings us to the idea of Jagat Natha, that is, the Lord of the universe, of all possible forms of substances and attributes. I have deliberately chosen the word Lord rather than God, whose existence often raises a discord between scientists who do not need the existence of God as a principle of rational explanation on the one hand, and theologians and philosophers who insist that God is a principle of rational explanation on the other. The Upanishads speak about the fallibility, existential fallibility, and futility, valuational futility of the world in which we live, move, and have our being. They assert that multiplicity and variety constituting the world do not continue to exist in three periods of time that we employ in our routine understanding of the world of being and becoming, neha nanasti kinchana. Existence, Sat, is characterized by unity and continuity, eka rupena hi avasthitah. What is ultimately real is, strictly speaking, anirvachaniya. But as a matter of expedience, for the sake of showing through the mode of saying, it is referred to as Tat. And the way Tat is described is shot with contradictions. Tat ejati, tat na ejati, tat dure, tat avantike, anyan, mahato, mahyan, etc. The categories of space, time, and number are not applicable, yet they are not dispensable in our talk. The icon of the Lord Jagannatha conveys this impression: the futility of limiting the unlimited, concretizing the abstract, giving a form to the formless. In the ordinary narrative, a contradictory expression is characterized as meaningless. But in the narrative about the ultimate, the absolute, a contradictory expression is regarded as exhibiting the limits of sayability. This is the idea of Jagannatha. The world of transitory names and forms, Namarupamaya Jagat, must have a source must point to the idea of supreme consciousness or supreme intelligence or supreme mind. It is existence as such, consciousness as such, and is complete in itself. It is Sat Chit Ananda, termed as Brahman. Western philosophy brings about a duality between the self and the other and raises crucial questions about the identity of self and knowledge of others. But the Upanishadic Rishi tries to know the other by trying to know his own self, Atmanam Vidhi. The ultimate realization in this way is Aham Brahmasmi through Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma and Tattvam Asi. This consciousness about the supreme consciousness, transcending the finite and fleeting consciousness, is Jagannatha Chetana. When this consciousness arises in the mind of a man, he is regarded as Jagannatha Prana or Tadgata Prana. Such a state is a state of going beyond the dualities. Rising above the dualities is the best expression of Jagannath Chetana. I am the other and the other is an I, Madatma Sarvabhutatma. The principle of being and becoming of the world is Satchidananda Brahma. The I of man is this Satchidananda known as Pratyagatman. It is the reality that recedes away from the cognizer trying to catch it. It can never be apprehended by the descriptive categories that mind employs to catch the objects of the variegated world. Nothing can be said about Pratyagatman except that it is Sat Chit Ananda. It shows itself forth. It could therefore be seen by one who has prepared oneself for it. The idea of Jagannatha is the archetype. This idea is the idea of this Pratyagatman. It is there in the world and it is there within every jiva. The idol of the idea of Jagannatha, idea with capital I, the idol of the idea of Jagannatha is constructed in such a way as to convey the above idea to the maximum limit possible. The concrete entity that we see in the organic sense of see and the abstract reality that we see in the inorganic sense of see are one and the same. The idol is the minimum concrete representation of the maximum abstraction of the idea of Satchidananda. Dr. Talwar was speaking yesterday about the proportion of concrete and the abstract in a very graphical way. The color and the structure with its lines, curves and contours represent the Sat. The lidless circular eyeball with a visual field of nearly 360 degrees represent Chit, and the very broad smile like the new moon of the second day represents Ananda, as we find the broad smile of Chinmanandaji Maharaj here. This Sat Chit Ananda is not attached to karma, nor is it detached from karma, not a part of karma, nor apart from it. Hence, the idol of Jagannatha has two hands which are without fingers and lifted 90 degrees from the normal swing position, signifies engagement in action, not doing anything himself, but directing the doings of every action by any agent. The doer and enjoyer of all actions that take place in the world is conceived to be Ishvara. Jagannatha is this Ishvara. Ishvara is not what the English word God indicates. Sanskrit Ishvara, Isha, ruler, master, lord, plus Vara, that is environing or enclosing, that is the all-pervasive Lord. God is religion specific. It is specific of Judeo-Christian religion in particular. But Ishvara is not specific of any religion. It has been contended that it is specific of Hindu religion or Hinduism. But I would submit that there is nothing like Hindu religion or Hinduism in the senses in which these terms are used. It is far from being a religion in the proprietary sense of the term religion. Nobody owns it. Being a religion non-specific, it is secular. It is in this secular sense that the Isha Upanishad sings Ishavasyam idam sarvam. All this is under the ownership of Isha. The import of this is that it is all reality, all sentience, all bliss, all change, all action, all creation, all sustenance, and all annihilation. The poet here conceives this as a power. I quote a few lines from Wordsworth. A power I have felt, a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the minds of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. That is from lines composed a few miles above Tintonagi. The philosophers here perceives the same as that. Jenabrutam nityam idam hi sarvam gyaha kalakaro gune sarvavidyaha tene shitam karma vivartateha prithvi of teja nila khani chintyam. Shvetashvatara 6.2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present everywhere, who knows everything, who controls time, and who has all auspicious qualities, created earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Yoto vai himani bhutani jayante jena jatani jivanti jat prayanti abhisambhisanti tad brahma tad vijigyansva. Taittiriya 3.1. That from which everything has come, that in which everything abides, and that to which everything must return one day is Brahman, the Absolute. Meditate on this. We told about the Gita's idea of Purushottama. Jagannatha is a concrete representation of this idea. The fallout of this conception is that the whole humanity is one. There is no trace of distinction, discrimination, and division here. Accordingly, there is no distinction among religions, Hindu quote unquote, Muslim, Christianity, etc. Between social castes, races, and color groups, white, black, etc. Between civilized and uncivilized, etc. The idea of Purusha appears as the idea of Purushottama in the Gita. Through Niti Kranti, Jani Jata, Vesha, the Jagannath culture has absorbed all the diversities of religions, sects, philosophies, religions, and cults. It is not done once and for all. It is not done for once and all. It is a living and ongoing process with the sole objective to show that it is always possible to sink all varieties into unity. Because unity is natural and valuable, and diversities are artificial and corruptible. The third section, the human being is an interface between the two limits of existence, divine and the demoniac. If he cultivates the good attributes, he can rise to the divine height. If, on the other hand, he cultivates evil attributes, he falls down to the demoniac. These divine attributes are Abhayam, fearlessness, Dana, charity, Dhamma, discipline of external organs, Yajna, sacrifice, Swadhyaya, self-study, Tapa, austerity, Arjava, rectitude, Ahimsa, non-injury, Satya, truthfulness, Akrodha, discipline of anger, Tyaga, renunciation, Santi, discipline of internal organs, Apaishuna, absence of vilification, Daya, kindness, Ololupatva, non-covetousness, Mardava, gentleness, Krihi, modesty, Achapalya, absence of restlessness, Teja, vigor, Kshama, forgiveness, Dhriti, fortitude, Shaucha, purity, Adroha, absence of malice, and Natimanita, absence of egoity. These are from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, 1 to 3. If a man imbibes and puts into practice any one of these, then he would be led to imbibe and practice the rest. In the words of Emerson, poet Emerson, what is life but an angle of vision? What is life but except an angle of vision? A man is measured by the angle at which he looks at objects. And Professor Talwar was explaining the different angles, and we normally distinguish between two angles of vision, the valley view and the peak view. From the valley view, we gradually rise up to the peak view. There could be two evaluative mindsets towards the world, the exclusivist and the non-exclusivist. Persons with the exclusivist mindset would consider himself or herself to be of a unique or special breed or blend or blood, a cut above the rest, would stand no comparison with him or her. This is as true of persons as of communities, organizations, nations, races, creeds, and color. This mindset results in division, discrimination, tension, and strife in the society. It creates inequity and inequality among people and denies dispensation of justice to them. Persons with a non-exclusivist, that is all-inclusivist mindset, try to discover the potential excellence in each individual and make use of the same for the perfection of the society as a whole. When everybody participates in perfection, there is a rule of truth and peace in the society. In other words, one strand of perfection added to another strand of perfection to make up a grand whole of perfection. To my mind, this is what constitutes Jagannatha Chetana, as all differences, all excellences merge into, sink into that Chetana. The Chetana that the Upanishads exhort us to imbibe is nothing but Jagannath Chetana. Bringing the same into the mode of practice is what is called Jagannath Dharma. People report about patches of extraordinary experiences in their lives. Their own experiences about Lord Jagannath. In Odia, they have compiled about scores of volumes about what experience one has about Lord Jagannath. I have some such too, but I am not going to describe them. But I want to say that you cannot have experience in two modes running concurrently. One in the mode of divinity and another in the mode of causality. It is either in the mode of divinity or in the mode of causality. Either you experience the divine in all that you perceive or you do not. If you perceive divinity in some and causality or and egoity in some others, this is not Jagannath Chetana proper. The value that is recommended by it to all the people of the world, not merely to the so-called Hindus, is to rise above all dualities and view everything in names and forms from nowhere as it were. View from nowhere, with no egoity, no commitment, no leanings to any particular concept or any particular principle. Freedom from duality is the value that we need now and every now and then. Professor Gokulananda Das, some might have known him, a celebrated mathematician hailing from Odisha, says in a book entitled Zero, the Spiritual Number. This is in press, I quote a few lines with permission. Lord Jagannath is a concept. He is the synthesis of all voids, creating doctrines of Neti, Moksha, Shunyavada, Nirvana, etc. This synthesis gradually gave rise to a Lord called Lord of the Universe, Sri Jagannatha. The ideal form of Lord Jagannatha represents the incomplete non-void world of appearance, that is the formless, non-transient void. Thus Lord Jagannatha, whom many people worship in India and abroad, is the void incarnate. Unquote. I may now just venture for a minute or two into formal logic, showing how Jagannath Chetana, the concept of Jagannath, is all inclusive. In formal logic, we have zero. We can say that the black color represents that zero, or zero represents black color, and the white color is represented by 1. In formal logic, that truth table, 0, 1 is 1, 1, 1 is 1. That is 1, that means all that represents truth can be in the void, in the vacuum, or can be in the plenum. All the truths of the world could come out of the void or from the fullness. Similarly, from 0 we can imply 0. From 0 we can also imply 1. That means from what is called void, what is represented by the black face of Lord Jagannath, all truths could come out, all the false would also come out, and everything, true or false, is contained in 0. That is a piece of formal logic.
Okay, sir.
Jagannath Dharma is the Bhakti Dharma of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the Sanatana Dharma, and this is nothing other than Manava Dharma. Pandita Nilakanta Das of Odisha, in this grand prefatory essay on the Bhagavad Gita, he has a very big essay on the Bhagavad Gita which he has edited. He says that Jagannath Dharma is this. In the thought of the universe, action, knowledge and devotion are 3 visions from 3 angles. At bottom, no distinction is there among the 3. To have the true visions of the universe in the proper perspective is yoga. Any aspect of reality, Sat, Chit or Ananda, implies the other 2. Sat implies Chit or Ananda, Chit implies Sat and Ananda, Ananda also implies Sat and Chit. They are intertwined. Similarly, any angle of vision, karma, jnana or bhakti, implies the other 2. Karma implies jnana and bhakti, jnana implies karma and bhakti, bhakti also implies karma and jnana. They are also intertwined. Reality is the whole and vision is one whole. Reality is one whole and vision is one whole too. The whole, the absolute, is apprehensible, not sensible. The absolute is apprehensible but not sensible. Jagannath is a sensible representation of the apprehensible. That is at once the mystery and resolution of the mystery as well.
Thank you.
We talk about the universal brotherhood or at least universal friendship of man, Vishwa Bhratritva or Vishwa Bandhutva. And in the globalized climate of thought, we talk about the globalization of Jagannath Chetana. Two international seminars were held in Puri on this globalization of Jagannath Chetana. Globalization was a program to search for markets beyond the boundaries of Europe. Goods produced in large scale by machines and exported to allied markets created tension in the indigenous markets. Due partly to meet the tensions and due partly to fulfill the inherent human ambition to conquer others' territories, the tradesmen became rulers. Globalization was accompanied by imperialism, and imperialism gave rise to two global wars. The term is new, but the concept is not new, especially to the Indians. The Vedas solemnly declare, Anabhadraha Pratabo Yantu Vishwataha. Let noble thoughts come to us from every side. The Vedic concepts struck Mahatma Gandhi when he was trying to find out the way out of the tension between allied consumable goods and the indigenous consumable goods when he was giving shape to the idea of Purna Swaraj. He declares that his patriotism is all inclusive, as no culture can live if it attempts to be exclusive. He then proclaims that we will exploit none just as we will allow none to exploit us. Live and let live must be the principle of human coexistence and growth. Globalization there should be, but it should look beyond material wealth, power, money, supremacy, hegemony, and overlordship. Its aim should be to seek the beneficence of one and all. Sarvabhuta hite rata. This Chetana must spread all over the globe, and this is globalization, not with a human face as some political party announced, but with a divine face. Globalization with the Jagannath Chetana. It is unethical to use sources and resources of Lord Jagannatha for plying trade or earning bread, but for being a man. Bread needs to be earned and trade to be plied by man being impelled by Jagannath Chetana. I repeat, Jagannath Chetana activates mind with yearning for being a man, not a demon in human form, then not to stagnate as man, but slowly yet surely rise to the state of the divine. There are ticklish and very controversial issues concerning entry into the Jagannath temple and embracing the Lord atop his Ratha, which I shall not enter into. I shall only submit and emphasize that the idea, the universal, is global, and appeal all concerned to desist from disputes to make the icon global. Jagannath Chetana is global, icon is not global. Jagannath is self-existing and self-manifesting too. He would get manifested in the mind of every seeker who only lends his mind for the purpose, that is, free himself or herself from all preconceptions and set ideas. Recently, we have come to know that a world-renowned British philosopher, Antony Flew, who was a notorious atheist for all his life, became a theist in his 70s. His belief, there is no God, is rationally transformed into the belief, there is a God. If this is not globalization of Jagannath Chetana, then what else is? The process of transformation is slow but sure. This is the end of the paper, but I shall like to submit a few lines in connection with that.
It's already time. Watch is there. Clock is there.
Oh, clock is there. Is it you over?
Oh, yes.
Or
Yes.
second and
Okay,
second
1 minute, please. 1 minute.
5 minutes.
Yes.
I hold Swami Chinmananda ji very close to my heart. About 3 decades back, he performed Gita Jnana Yajna for 1 month in Bhubaneswar. I was his student for the entire course, and on the concluding day, my wife and I participated in the Havan. A memorable incident happened. I was at that time a lecturer in philosophy at Utkal University. I was anxious to have a personal meeting with Swamiji. I sent a letter through one of the Sevakas. Swamiji gave a prompt reply, fixing the time for the meeting. On the appointed day, I went to his place of stay, asked a Sevaka the exact place where he gives interview. He could not say. I hovered there for some time and then came away. After 2-3 days, I received a letter from Swamiji with the following words: "We waited for you, you did not come." Only these words. Only pray. Hot blood ran from head to toe reading this. As it were, I got a flopping, spiritual flopping from the master. I preserve that letter in laminated form till this day. The message perhaps was, forsake your I-ness, dissolve it in the we-ness. We waited for you, you did not come. I love his writings on the Gita, the Upanishads and other writings, and I recommend it the same to my students in Utkal University and in Revencha University also, where I am a visiting professor now. I just illustrated in the paper values that Jagannath Dharma embraces by implication. Now, the all-important question is, how can we teach these values to those who we find deplorably lack it? Last week, there was a prize-giving ceremony at Bhubaneswar. A 9th class student got a prize for eloquence competition. Incidentally, a retired headmaster of the school to which the student belongs was there. The headmaster called him. The student came. The retired headmaster asked, "You are reading in Capital High School?" "Good." I was sitting by his side. I told the student, "Say namaskar to sir." He did not do that. He had a vacant look around and ran away with the prize. How do you teach the values to the students of this sort? Actually, 3 things are responsible: the teacher, the taught, and the syllabus also. All the 3 are not actually Vidya centered, they are Artha centered. As I find the syllabus of Utkal University and Revencha University, they are not up to the mark. They cannot teach values to the students. All the 3 are oriented towards empirical goals. Great educationists like VCs, directors are present here. Let us see with a dispassionate vision what sort of teachers, what sort of students and what sort of syllabi are there in the field. I do not, cannot and should not make a generalization about all the kinds and units of educational institutions. I cannot say about all the institutions. Excerpts from what we treat as classical value literature or writings in verse form or in prose form, they are used to be taught to the students in schools and in colleges. In the name of secularization and modernization of syllabi, the study has been limited to know that and know hows. Know that and know how is a classification of knowledge by the Western philosophers of analysis, from whom the statements of ethics, for whom the statements of ethics are only emotional ejaculations. But I want to submit that the knowledge has three aspects: know that, know how, and know ought.
Okay, sir.
Without
very
this,
much.
without this know ought, know that's, and know hows are just empty and vacuous. Let us sit down, ponder over the matter how values could be taught, and then, as you had proposed yesterday, pass a resolution and communicate it to all the educational institutions and have strong persuasion to revise their syllabus accordingly. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Professor Das. You had a very deep deliberation over Jagannath and globalization. Although actually globalization is a technical term, it is used for the post-World War period and post-modern period, the total scenario including marketability and all other things. But he has stressed its meaning, perhaps its archaic meaning of globalization, and he has proved in many ways how Jagannath is also a symbol of globalization. And he started from Stephen Hawking, who in fact was in his mode of causality to prove many things. But I would say I am also a bhakta of Stephen Hawking, and he in many ways also tries to prove the existence of God, though a top level scientist. And then he went to God particle and physics and metaphysics. In fact, where physics ends, metaphysics starts. God particle would help the process of understanding metaphysics rather. And he also spoke about Nilakanta Das, who studied on the iconography of Lord Jagannath and his symbol of colors, how they are really global in nature, how they appeal to the people of the whole globe. And the idea of Lord Jagannath as the archetype of Pratyagatma, Jagannath obliterates all the barriers and he synthesizes all the normatives. And there is a Shastra also which says that in the precinct of Lord Jagannath, a dog and a man can eat together. So this is the global friendship, the effect of Lord Jagannath creates. In fact, we know that he is the symbol of all the religions. Salabhega, Bhakta Salabhega was a Muslim, but he was a writer of a great composer of great poems and lyrics for Lord Jagannath. 22 stairs, they symbolize 22 Tirthankars of Jainas. The teeth of Buddha, it is believed that it is there inside the navel of Lord Jagannath. So that way it is a great conglomeration. Lord Jagannath is a great conglomeration. And we also, Saibites say, Bimala Bhairavi Jatra Jagannathastu Bhairava. That is also said. And he himself, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That we also know. And he is the symbol of mode of divinity, not causality, mode of divinity, who can also kartum akartum anyatha kartum prabhavati, that way. And the global friendship that he creates, generates, anybody can feel when he enters to the precinct. And thank you, Professor Das. You took a lot of trouble to present the paper in your serene voice, although some of portions we couldn't get very easily, but you had an excellent presentation, and we sincerely, from the behalf of organization and from my personal behalf, we all sincerely thank you. Now we invite Professor V.K. Swai for his talk on parental debt and filial duty. Professor Brajkishore Swai is a professor of Dharma Shastra in Sri Jagannath Sanskrit University, Puri, and because of his tremendous and immense contribution to the field of Dharma Shastra, nowadays scholars have started talking about him as if he is the P.V. Kane of 21st century. I have come to know. So, Professor Swai.
नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्याम जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। नीलाकाश विशाल नील जलदच्छाया स्फुरद विग्रहम लीलालोलगलत बलम मधुरिमोद्वेलत चलिंदीवरम खेलो तुंग विभंग संगम भवत गोपाल बालम मुहो बेलामा कलयच्छिवम दिशतु नो नीलाद्रि नीलम महः। Honorable President of this session, my predecessor speaker, Professor Das, and the founding father of this seminar, and our Parama Guru, Professor Jha Sahib, and my elders and my youngers. My paper is a very short paper, small paper, and my paper is related to the duties and responsibilities of the children to their parents in shape of a spiritual association with each other in a family. I have determined the very caption of my paper is parental debt and filial duty. And this paper is prepared only on the very text of Manusmriti. I have consulted other many Dharma Shastra texts to attach some supplements to this paper. However, my paper is basically concentrated upon Manu's Dharma Shastra. Since my paper is a very small paper, I can read out the full text. It is a common sense that man has to repay all his debts in a social system, and while doing so, he has to clear the principle along with its interests. But so far as the relationship between the parents and their children is concerned, the latter may at best repay a portion of the interest only, and the repayment of the principal is next to impossible. Let us look at the nature and the quantum of this parental debt. The Almighty creates the human beings by uniting the bone, nerve and marrow, asthi, snayu, majja of the father's body with the mother's skin, flesh and blood. The very Garbhopanishad runs, etattu sat kausikam sariram. Trini pitritaha, trini matritaha. Asthi snayu majjanaha pitritaha. Tvangmang sarudhirani matritaha. Needless to say that all other things can be procured from other sources, but the above mentioned 6 ingredients have exclusively a single source, the parents. Therefore, it is natural that offsprings, in spite of their best efforts, miserably fail to repay this debt to the parents. Taking into consideration the 6 basic components of the human body, symbolically 6 pieces of bamboo or wood are necessary for carrying the dead body to the burial ground. Just after death, a living human being acquires the form of a preta. The great commentator Vijñānesvara on Yajnavalkya Smriti, he says, Pretatvam nama Khyutrusnopajanita atyanta dukkhanubhavavastha. Khyutrusnopajanita atyanta dukkhanubhavavastha, in which it continues for 1 year. In such a state, the preta suffers from acute hunger and thirst in addition to being forced to live in complete darkness. Mahakyudha Mahatrisha Mahandhakara. To satisfy the preta's acute hunger, inquenchable thirst, and the pitch darkness to which it is pushed, the children offer food, water, and light through Shraddha, Tarpana, and Dipadana, respectively. In analyzing the feelings of the parents, it is always found that they are more concerned about the well-being of their children than their personal comforts, and that is why their pleasure for having got something is adversely disproportionate to the sense of the worries and anxieties of the children. No amount of dana can compensate the agony of the parents of the sorrowful plight of their children. So, the souls of the parents get easily satisfied if the children offer Shraddha with eyes full of tears. Asru Tarpana. Adding together the 12 Adityas, 11 Ridras, and 8 Vasus, the total number of Pitrus come to 31. Ekatring Sat Pitrigana Jairvyaptam Akilam Jagat. This is said in Markandeya Mahapurana. The Pitrus not only give birth to living beings, but are instrumental in deciding the places due to these living beings after death. They are the custodians of the chain of birth and death. They know the art of transmigration of the soul, and that is why when food or water is offered to the Pitrus, it is accepted by the above mentioned transmitted to the deceased parents of the offerer in a modified form as per their requirement. Parents are regarded as Vasudevata in the world. Parents are Rudras, and great-grandparents are the Adityas. Pitaro Vasavogyeya Rudraschaiva Pitamaha. The mother Ganga was the first wife of the king Santanu. She became the mother of 8 Vasus as her 8 children, out of which the 8th Vasu took the form of Bhishma, and that explains why Tarpana is offered to Bhishma by each and all, irrespective of caste and creed. Vayagra Padagotraya, Sankriti Parvaraya cha, Ganga Putraya Bhishmaya, Pradasyeham Tilodakam. The place of origin and demise being the same, and parents being regarded as Vasudevata, naturally Ganga is the place of their last destination of the life's journey. Therefore, the mother remains of the parents are immersed at no other place than the Ganga. In this connection, Prayaga, the confluence, is regarded as the navel of the Ganga Mata. Since offspring takes its first shape from the navel place of the mother, naturally it has to return ultimately to its place of origin, for which, at the confluence of the Prayag, the mortal remains of the parents are immersed. Though parents rely more on the male child, their emotional attachment towards the girl child is naturally more. The son satisfies the reliance of the parents by offering pinda and jala, food and water, through Shraddha and Tarpana, whereas the daughter reciprocates such filial love by lighting candles, Dipadana, with the help of oil. So parents always expect the offering of food and water from the son, and that of light from the daughter. Since its conception in the mother's womb, the body takes 10 months to see the light of the day. Just after death, the soul requires 10 days of offering of a pinda to acquire an invisible form. Therefore, after death, pinda is offered for consecutive 10 days, and asaucha, impurity, is observed. The logical implication of all this is that while construction takes 10 months for its completion, destruction takes only its 1/30th time. A total number of 32 Shraddhas are offered to the departed soul from the very day of the death of the body till the end of the first year, out of which 16 Shraddhas are offered within the 10 days from the date of death in a state of asaucha. The rest 16 are offered from the 11th day till the end of the year. Since during this period such Shraddhas are offered to the deceased parents in the form of preta, the sons and unmarried daughters remain impure, asuchi, along with their body, belonging, property and the shelter. That speaks why no ceremony is performed or festival observed during the first year of the death of the parents. Soon after the death of the parents, the members of the family, along with their kith and kin, automatically become impure, even with their belongings. So nobody accepts any material offering from such impure persons during these 10 days. In addition to this, the very touch of an impure person makes everything impure. But as the married daughters and nephews and nieces belong to other kutumbas family as different from Gyantis, they reach their parents' house in person with the food material and preparedness to bear the immediate expenses. This is known as Sitala, as their property are not touched by such impurity. It is desirable and rational that the physical presence of relations is always preferable to their in absentia financial assistance during the funeral days. Their presence is most important because during this period the sons and other family members are in a state of impurity. The relations manage the household affairs during this period. Therefore, he who on receipt of the sad news of death makes himself physically available at the place of the deceased person is a real friend. Their very presence gives solace to the aggrieved persons. Ill temper and a miserly attitude on the part of the children create a dissatisfaction and anguish in the minds of the parents. So, at the time of performing the rites connected with their death, the children should be very cautious so as not to exhibit such bad qualities. Everything should be performed in a temper of happiness and a Catholicity as a token of utmost respect to the departed souls. Since gods understand the psychology of a man readily, one is free to use any type of a thought-provoking word to appeal them. Parents understand the mother tongue of their children very quickly, and that is why, while offering something to the parents at the time of performing rituals, the children should be adequately careful and unambiguous in the use of words. Pitaro vakyamichanti, bhavamichanti devata. The use of a universally acceptable language modestly lessens the discomfort of the preta or departed persons. Our own hand consists of 4 tirthas. The fingertips are known as Devatirtha, through which anything is offered to the gods. The base of the fingers are known as Rishitirtha, through which alms are offered. The base of the thumb is known as Brahmatirtha, through which achaman or sipping of water is performed. The space between the forefinger and the thumb is known as Pitratirtha, through which pindo and water are offered to the forefathers. It is not out of place to mention that parents are always satisfied with whatever they get from their sons. One peculiarity in their mindset is that acceptance of offering from the sons makes them happy, but on the other hand, they get still happier if they are in a position to give something to their daughters. Irrespective of the financial condition of the son, parents are always eager to receive food and water from him. Simultaneously, even if the daughter lives in affluence with her in-laws, parents are equally eager to offer her something according to their capacity. A humble gift by the brother to his sister makes his parents still happier, because it is an established custom in our society that if the son discharges his duties to his sister and satisfies the expectation of the parents, that way, to some extent, the debt of the parents may be accepted to have been repaid in some extent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Swai. And your deliberation, although it was short, very seminal, on parental duty and parental debt and filial duty. You have, in fact, harped upon the funeral and post-funeral service of parents, and you didn't touch upon the old age home and Pita Dharma, Pita Swarga, Pita Hi Paramam Tapa, etc., etc. But still, you cited very heart-touching examples, citations like Pitaro Basavu Gyayaha, Rudraschaiva Pitamaha, Pitaro Bhakyamichanti, Bhakti Michanti Devataha, etc., etc. These are really touching. This is a value. And we are going to concretize the whole deliberation of this seminar and present it as a value message to the government. And surely your 4-page deliberation would be a core of it, definitely. Thank you very much.